Welcome, everyone. Welcome to our very first social media challenge of the year. Happy New Year if you haven't seen each other yet. My name is Anka, and I will be your host for today. Today's a very exciting day because in the next 2 hours, we'll go over a lot of elements that will essentially build your social media strategy. Let me know in the comments where you're from. I'll introduce also my colleague Roxana, who is here with us to help answer any questions that you might have. And I'll just go ahead and share my screen now so that we have it right off the get-go. And then we're going through the agenda, the house rules, and everything in between. Ray from the UK. That's awesome. Netherlands, Europe's in the house, I see. England, Canada, Italy, USA, Slovenia, Switzerland. Okay, so a lot of Europeans are here. Hi. Hi from Romania. Um, Canada, Nashville. There's a lot of people from all over the place. That's amazing. I love the international crowds. Feel free to continue the discussion in the chat. I'll just go back to sharing the screen because that was what I was doing. I got distracted for a second. Okay, so can you see my screen? Yes. Perfect. Okay, what you're seeing is the agenda. This is what we're going to talk about in today's session. Once again, now that everyone's here, welcome to the Social Media Challenge. This is a crash course in how to build a social media strategy that is valid for 2026. So we are going to work through some elements that will help you build a social media strategy, things like goal setting, content pillars, things like engagement, analytics, things like efficient ways to create your content. All of this so that you can build a robust plan. And hopefully, by the end of these 2 hours, you'll have a simple social media system that you can reuse every single month or whenever you want to redo your strategy again and again. By the way, if you're joining us live and you're sticking with us for the entire session, which is the next 2 hours, you're automatically registered to win one of two yearly Social Bee subscriptions. That is a free plan for Social Bee for 1 year. So hopefully you will stick with us until the very end of this session. And by the way, let me properly introduce myself. Hi, I'm Anka. I'm a social media strategist here at SocialBee. I help people with gaining clarity on what's the next step for their social media and how SocialBee fits into that puzzle a little better. And in today's session, we will actually go through social media strategy, as I said. Before we begin with the actual content, I wanted to go over a few house rules. Once again, let me introduce my colleague Roxana. If you haven't seen her already, she's down there in the chat somewhere with you guys. If you want to revisit this session, this will be recorded, so you will get a recording of today's session via email so that you can always revisit, rewatch, take notes, whatever else is important. We'll also have practical exercises that no, you won't have time to do within the 2 hour setup because we don't want to take too much time. And this is really a jam-packed session with a lot of good insight. But I do urge you to actually take those actions later on after the session is done and work on those exercises. And by the end of it, you should actually have something tangible to work with for your social media strategy. We'll also have a Q&A session at the end. So any questions that you might have, add them in the Q&A box, which should be, I think, somewhere on the bottom on the bar there. So let's get this party started, shall we? Let's see. So we're going to start with the most important thing that every strategy should have, and that is goal setting and planning. Strategy is at its core planning, right? So we're going to talk about why goals matter, what are SMART goals, how you can use them, what should you include, why should you include those, what specifics you need, and all of that. And that being said, this isn't about perfection. It is about momentum and moving further. So keep that in mind as we move along, because a lot of the things that I'm going to say in today's session tend towards perfection, towards the ideal. But the ideal is not something that you will actually receive, you or touch. You will just have to work towards getting better and better with every single step. So why should we set goals and plan the content? Let me know in the comments. Why are you on social media? Do you have any goals as to why you're there? What's your goal? Why are you on social media? I'm curious to see in the comments. And in the meantime, what I can tell you is that setting goals and planning things for your social media can help measure your progress against a benchmark. It can help test methods and adjust wherever you need to. It can help create structure. It can help create consistency and better engagement. So I can see a few replies in the comments already. Your goal is brand awareness, engagement, and more subscribers for your newsletter. Growing the brand, customer contact, and awareness. It makes it easier. Well, this is going too fast. It makes it easier if you know your why and why you're joining social media. You need to be there for more than just numbers. That's true, Rox. For photography business, to introduce our business, to create personal and business brand and leverage income. Branding, the goal is to be consistent when posting. Brand awareness, getting more customers. Keep the corporate world in touch with our university's innovations. To get the audience for my books released. Awesome. So there's quite a few reasons why you're on social media. Now, raise your hand if you have the structure to reach those goals. You can just thumbs up in the comments if you do. Because I think many of you don't actually have that structure yet. And that structure, the hand is half raised. Yes. Well, hopefully by the end of today's session, you will be able to do this and fully raise that hand. So that structure starts with SMART goals. What are these SMART goals, you ask? Well, they are goals that you are very specific about, that you can measure, that you can achieve, that are relevant to you, and that are time bound. So let's go through each one of the letters of this acronym. SMART stands for these 5 things, starting with specific. You should not be too broad, like brand awareness. That is a lot of broadness. It's a very broad term, it's a very general term. It cannot really tell a lot to your audience about what you want. So they will not know what to do with it. If you want to introduce your business to your audience and have them be aware of your business, yes, that is more specific. Make it measurable by adding metrics. That way you can measure progress. You can see if you've reached that goal or if you still have to work on it. We'll talk about this a little bit later in the session during the analytics, but basically make sure you say something like, I want to reach 2,000 followers on Instagram, not just grow my Instagram, right? It has to be measurable. And also, it has to be achievable. The reason why I said 2,000 and not 500,000, right? If right now I've just created my Instagram account, 500,000 is not achievable for me because people don't know who I am. So I need to jump through some hoops first and get through some lower goals first before I can do that. That can be an ultimate goal for later, but for now, let's focus on achievable goals. For instance, you will jump from 10 to 100 in 2 months, followers, that is. You also need to make sure that the goal is relevant. So it will help face a problem that your business is facing. If your business is new, you need brand awareness. Why? Because your audience does not know you exist. It is relevant for your business that your target audience knows about you. You need more customers. Why? Because you need more revenue, right? In your business to be able to grow. You need more engagement. Why? Because engagement drives growth. There's a lot of whys behind it, but usually make sure that your goals are relevant towards your business or a problem that your business is currently facing. And time bound just because it requires you to have a little bit of a deadline to make it a little more actionable for you. For this challenge, however, I want you to only think of one platform. Let's say your main platform. If your main platform is Instagram, which is something that I will refer to a lot, that's great. If it's LinkedIn, even better. If it's other platforms, you name them. Let me know in the comments what's your main platform at the moment. So we're just going to focus on that one. We're also just going to focus on one goal for that platform. So if your platform is Instagram and you want to grow to 500,000 followers, let's make it realistic. Let's grow to 10,000 followers, right? Then your goal is that one. And your platform is Instagram, and your main metric is going to be the follower growth, right? So that's how you will think about the SMART goal for today's session. You can do this multiple times for multiple platforms, especially if you have different strategies. But for now, I would suggest focusing on one goal, one platform, one main metric. So that's how we're going to do it. Let's move into what specific metrics you can look at and how they indicate your account's health and how everything is progressing. More simply put, you have lagging indicators and leading indicators, right? So you'll see the two split on the screen right now. Leading indicators are saves, replies, comments, watch time, profile visits, link clicks, or DMs. And then for lagging indicators, you have follower count, subscribers, website traffic, sales, or revenue. What specifically are these indicators? Well, they are ways to tell you what your outcome will be like. They can tell you what already happened. They can tell you if it's too late to change that or how to change that. They basically help your outcome. Because in 2026, algorithms will not ask you, hey, does this account gain followers? They will ask, do people care about this account enough to do something about it, like follow or interact with the post or share the post, or even better, save the post? So that something is your leading indicator, which is why you're seeing the examples that I've mentioned here, the saves, the replies, things that are actions that are that something that people want. For the lagging indicators, they are still important, but they are usually the result of your action, not the cause. So that's why follower count is something that you can use as a goal, whereas as a main goal, when your goal is to grow your business, whereas saves or replies or comments are something that you can use to measure progress towards that goal. Hope that makes sense, right? Cool. So again, just as a small recap, leading indicators happen before the growth happens, and lagging indicators happen after. They are the result of the process that leading works towards. So that's why we're going to look at things a little bit differently with these two. Now, I have a few examples for you here too, to be specific, because as I said in the beginning, we are focusing on one platform at a time. So I have one example for increasing website traffic from Pinterest. In here, the problem is that my website is not getting enough traffic. People don't go to my website enough. So I'm using Pinterest as a social media, which is very well known to drive website traffic back to my website. So the specific part is to increase my website traffic by using Pinterest. The measurable part is by looking at my current website traffic and increase it by 30%. So looking at right now being my benchmark and increasing it with a achievable result. If I'm saying I want to triple my website traffic, it's not going to be achievable in the span of 8 weeks, which is what I have as my time bound part. But 30% increase, that is very much achievable for this goal. Is it relevant? Yes, because more traffic from Pinterest will support my bigger marketing strategy of driving organic traffic to my website, which is what I want in the end and is the problem that I'm trying to solve. Oops. Nope, there we go. The other example is for YouTube, and I tried to give one that also measures growth. In this case, you'll have the specific goal of gaining new YouTube channel subscribers. You can also replace this with Instagram followers, TikTok followers, LinkedIn connections, things like that. So it depends on the platform. How do you make it measurable? Look at your current follower state. If you are very low, very in the beginning, you cannot aim for something that's too high right off the get-go with just organic social. So unless you want to pay for it, you will not get to 10,000 overnight. But you can get, let's say, 500 new subscribers in the span of 3 months, especially on YouTube. That's something that's quite easy to do. So you can make it measurable again by making sure that you make it realistic and achievable to you and the deadline that you set. For me, the deadline for this example is 3 months, but I'm not done here. So my measurable goal is 500 new subscribers, but being that that is a lagging indicator, I also want to make sure I add something to track the progress. So to track on whether I am in the right direction with this goal or not. And that is going to be something like increase the average watch time by 10%, because increasing the watch time can mean that people are watching my videos more. That means more people are getting shown my videos, and that possibly means more people are going to decide to subscribe to my channel. So now that we have the goals being set, it's time to move over to what we call content pillars and topic clarity. So, how can you choose your content pillars and how do you know what can help you work towards your goals? Well, you're going to learn a little bit more about how content pillars can help. What's the difference between using content pillars and topics? Because yes, there is a difference. We're going to talk about some suggested content pillars, and I'll also try to give you some examples on this. But before we do, let's talk content pillars. Usually, I recommend having 3 to 5 content pillars max. These are the main themes that guide your content. These are your set in stone, your Bible, if you will. You can use content pillars like educational content, like entertaining content, promotional. One thing that really works right now on platforms like Instagram is point of view or belief-based content, which is expertise content, really. It's showing you what worked for me because if you're in my situation, it might work for you. Kind of. That's kind of the idea behind it. So you will choose, I've already given you five here. Educational, entertaining, promotional, expertise, point of view. There are five content types or pillars that you can use. Pick three. I would say pick three and stick with those. And then if you feel like you need more, you can add more. And then we have topics. The difference here is that topics are industry specific. So while any industry can have educational content, your topics are going to be industry specific subjects that are relevant to your audience. In my case, for Social Bee, educational content is the content that we're providing in this webinar, for instance, then I will then repurpose on social media as educational content, right? So these topics are topics that can be um, that can, let's do this, address they I have too many ideas. Simmer down. Okay. So the topics can address your audience's interest. They can address their problems. They can attract your audience towards your account, and they are similar to no, not similar. They can be applied to any pillar that you have. Look at the three pillars that I have on screen right now, right? Let's say one of them is educational, one of them is entertaining, one of them is promotional. And let's say that the first topic that I want to talk about is being consistent or consistent posting, right? That is something that keeps nagging at everyone who is posting on social media. You have to be consistent. So in pillar one, if I'm talking about consistency, pillar one being the educational one, that as I said earlier, I will probably try to share insights on how social media algorithms work, how they reward consistency. I will try to provide tips on how you can maintain a posting schedule, including through Social Bee, things like that. On my second pillar, which is entertaining, I will probably become a little more relatable to the problem that you're having, highlighting maybe differences between being inconsistent or consistent with your posting, making fun of the topic with memes and things like that, so that the content becomes engaging, it becomes shareable, super likable, super relatable, super easy to follow. The third pillar in this case is going to be promotional content, because I mentioned in the beginning, in the educational pillar, I told you that we want to provide tips on how you can maintain a schedule or a consistent posting schedule. And guess what? You can do that very easily with Social Bee. So this is how I can use the educational and entertaining pillars to use them into my third pillar, which is promotional. I'm trying to promote my business here, right? So in this case, I would probably showcase how Social Bee manages to maintain a regular posting schedule and consistency by using the content pillars, which, by the way, in Social Bee, we call them categories. So these pillars are actually going to be your content categories in Social Bee. To sum up what I've told about pillars so far, I want you to start simple. I want you to try and publish one post every week for each one of your pillars. And maybe try to alternate between different topics and maintain some variety. So you see how in here I have three pillars, five topics, and they're all very much intertwined. This should give you a few months worth of content on its own. So the first exercise that I want you to take note of is to choose your social media channel. We've already gone through that in the chat, in the comments here. Focus on it during this challenge and set a SMART goal for that channel. And finally, develop your list of content pillars and topics. If you have these, you can also drop them into the comments. I'll take a look at them. If you have questions about these, you can always ask them in the Q&A box. and we'll try to maybe save some time towards the end of the session to look at these exercises if any of you already have results for them. If not, treat them as homework. This is how you get a strategy. We're moving on into the next step, which is to think about how you're going to plan your content. So you have the structure for what content you're going to write, but now you need structure on how you're going to post it every single time. So for this, we're going to talk about how you are going to use AI to create content because guess what? AI is here to stay. We are going to use it to our advantage, not have it replace us. We are going to talk about posting frequency. We're going to talk about how you can make the most out of when your audience is online. And one thing that you are going to see in the next two slides, and feel free to take a screenshot of these two slides, is the best posting times for all of the profiles that I found relevant. Uh, Basically, these are baselines, right? These are best practices when it comes to social media in 2025 per platform. The only thing that I would like to underline here is that platform behavior is in 2026 and forward, it is account specific. It is not as global as it used to be. So it is not as simple as posting to Facebook between 9 to 11 a.m. and hoping it works, because it will not. So use these posting schedules, these best practices, as a guide, as a baseline, and look at your analytics. And I'll show you in that part how you can do that. Um, Sorry, I meant 8 to 9 a.m. for LinkedIn. 8 to 9 a.m. So in the morning. Before people go to work, typically. That's what I meant with that one. It's your local time. So this is not going to be in any time zone. It's pretty much your local time, whatever time zone you have. I have data for the other platforms on the next screen. Let me finish my idea because I kind of lost my idea by looking at the chat here. What was I saying? Right. I was saying that you should use these as a baseline and that you should look at your analytics and see when your audience is online, and combine it with that and make sure that you work towards when your audience is there to get your content more than just the best practices. And by the way, Social Bee also has a few tools that can help you make the most out of when your audience is online. So that's something to know about. Okay, so let's go through these really quick. Facebook, ideally 3 to 5 posts every week, usually in the first part of the day. Instagram wants daily stories, but not daily posts. You want to have 3 to 5 posts per week on your feed, whether they are carousels or static images or reels. Right now, what I found for Instagram works best is carousels for engagement because every single slide counts as engagement. So if someone just looks through your 20 photos on your carousel, that counts as engagement. That counts as that something that we were talking about. And again, it's best to publish in the first part of the day. Instagram, I remember, used to be very interesting because it was best to post in the evenings, and now it's just changed so much. Anyway, posting is different according to each platform. Here are the rest of the platforms so that you can take a screenshot of that as well. Hopefully, no more typos squeezed in, but if they did, I'm sorry. we'll just tackle them there. What I want you to do is for the platform that you picked as your main, make sure you pick a realistic, sustainable frequency. So if we're talking about which one was it? I think, well, let's take TikTok. If you're talking about 7 posts a week and that's a little too much for you right now, you can go down to 3. If you can sustain 3 posts a week, it's better to do so consistently than to have 1 week 7 posts, the second week 3 posts, and then nothing for 3 weeks because you're burnt out. So stay consistent, pick a frequency that you can sustain. Because in this case, consistency beats optimization every single time. No questions asked. Can you go back to the previous screen? I can go back to the previous screen for 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You'll also get the slides and the recording later, so you can always come back to that later. Okay, I do have a few notes on this because there are some platforms that you might be using that might need a little more help there. So I do have a few notes and I do have the notes in front of me. So if you see me reading, it's because I am at this point, because I don't want to miss any one of those notes. But basically, threads. This platform tends to perform well in the morning and it performs well midday, especially with posts that are very conversation driven, but also posts that are very visual because Threads users usually come from Instagram. So the visual aspect needs to be there as opposed to Twitter, where it didn't need visuals so much. Blue Sky, which is also an X alternative, currently behaves very much like early Twitter did. So think exactly as you would have done for Twitter a few years ago. That's Blue Sky right now. And community interaction matters more than volume with Blue Sky. Google Business, it's not mentioned here because time is not relevant for that one. Google Business is a platform that is very helpful for local SEO. It's ideal for businesses that have a service-based or location-dependent um, business, basically, service. And it is extremely useful for posts that contain offers, that contain reviews, events, things like that. For Pinterest, a good rule of thumb is to have consistency even if it is repurposed. On Pinterest, no one cares if you have the same pin multiple times pinned, so you can reuse the same thing over and over again if you don't have time to build new content. Just make sure you're being consistent. TikTok, one of our younger platforms, but very much relevant. TikTok favors frequent posting, but it also favors quality and trends more than just strict timing. So again, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. or 6 to 9 p.m. are just baselines. Work with when your audience is there active on the platform. YouTube, on the other hand, also rewards consistency more than volume, but as opposed to TikTok, consistency in YouTube can mean one video per week, kind of like the old school TV shows. Or yeah, I guess TV shows is the best is the best analogy here. So with YouTube, you want to have that consistency rather than volume, and then you can repurpose that one big video into smaller shorts that you can publish throughout the week. Okay, so I think that's all that I have on these platforms. One final reminder on these is that these are just patterns, they are not promises. So, again, make sure to look at your analytics and see what works for you and how your particular audience behaves in order to determine when your best posting time is. Now that we have that, we're going to go into fast and smart content creation tactics. because before you go into ChatGPT and start creating the content, I want to go over a few content creation rules with you, starting with plan before you create. So in here, I want you to focus on using your content pillars, using the topics that will guide your content. Think about the content pillars that you've set. Think about the topics that you've already had. Use those in order to plan out your content. You can list out your topics in advance to know that you are always aware of what you want to post. And you can use tactics like comment to content to bring in new ideas. What is comment to content? Well, it's a tactic that will help you look at your comments for existing posts and turn them into a new post. For example, someone comments, does this actually work for my account in relation to, let's say, social bee? So my next post will probably be, and I'll just grab my phone, talk to the camera and say things like, I get asked all the time if social bee works for small businesses. So here's my honest answer. And that is why you can now go ahead and just create a new piece of content from something that is not even born out of your head. It's just someone asks that a lot. This works because it builds relevance. You know your audience is interacting or interested in that content. You know they will interact with it because they have before. You know that this will also trigger more comments because they are getting seen. The audience loves being seen. And that just creates a kind of like a snowball effect. You can also do this from DMs. So if people DM your stories, maybe, or send you just messages and tell you things or ask you a specific question, you can just use that as content demand, and you can use that further um, into addressing real pain points, basically, into making sure that you have human to human interactions and making it feel more personal. Um, Basically, what I'm trying to say is that you need to pay attention to what your audience is already telling you in the comments. Use it to your advantage. Cool. Next rule that I have here is to batch similar tasks together. This goal is not here to make you work harder one day. It is here to remove daily decision making. It is here to remove decision fatigue. It is here to make things boringly easy for you to stay consistent. So in order to do that, batch your similar tasks together. Work with one type of thing at a time. Write your captions in one sitting, or design your graphics in one sitting, or edit videos at once. Schedule posts in bulk using a content calendar like the one that Social Bee has. Things that will help make your journey smooth and make you being more consistent on it. Rule number 3: repurpose and reuse your content. I said in the beginning that we will be using the recording from this session as shorts or reels on Instagram, right? We're going to use these to make sure that we have educational content. That's easy. You can also turn a blog post into multiple social media posts, reformat content across platforms. And I see, you will see actually an example in the images here. I have a tweet from 2023 from Social Bee. That is kind of like a joke, right? But I did want to bring it into Instagram later on, so I reformatted the same joke into an actual tweet screenshot and used that as my visual for my audience. And so it's super easy for me to become very relatable with my content with this one. Now, before we move further, I wanted to also go through the anatomy of a post. This is something that will help you save a lot of time if you are aware of how you can build your post. Because you can do your content in as many ways as you'd like to, but you'll need to make sure that your content is relevant to the platform's best practices. So in here, you have two screenshots. The one on the left is for Instagram, the one on the right is for Pinterest, and it's a screenshot taken from SocialBee. What this means for Instagram, let's just talk Instagram real quick. You will think about all the elements that are needed for an Instagram post. In this case, you will need a visual, whether that is a carousel, a static image, a video, you'll need a visual. If it's a video, you'll also need a cover photo for that video. You need to make sure that your caption includes a call to action and that it includes any type of discovery signals that will play into the algorithm. These are keywords, hooks, retention things, retention words, and things like that. Even hashtags, especially on platforms where I'm getting distracted by the comments. Okay, I'll close the chat for now. I'll come back to the chat later, but if you have questions, put them in the Q&A box, not the chat, because I want to see them later on once we finish. Okay, so hashtags. They are not as relevant on Instagram in the sense that they used to be as a way to get more people to see your content. They are more likely there to let the algorithm know what your post is about. And so using hashtags is something that is very different than it used to be. You should use at most 5 hashtags in your content, and they should describe what your content is about. Do not add random hashtags, they will not help. The image on the right, you'll have a Pinterest post here, which requires a board that you need to pin your content to. It requires a link to lead your audience to. This is how Pinterest uses referral traffic. You will need a title. You will need a visual. You will need a caption. You will need a call to action. You will need all these elements. So make sure that you can look at all the elements that your post needs to have in order to be successful on that platform. On Instagram, things like inviting users as collaborators, tagging users, adding alt text even, depending on music, location, things like that. So all of those matter. And the reason why I'm telling you that now is because we're going into how you can use all of that to speed up your content creation with the use of AI. And the AI needs to know exactly what you want it to focus on. So be mindful of that. So let's talk about how you can use AI to plan your content smarter and faster, and not lose that personal touch. Because yes, I think the biggest mistake that people tend to make when using AI is either overusing it to the point of overthinking it or kind of asking it the wrong questions. I think that with the right prompts, you are able to create a content planning assistant, but that's just it. It has to be an assistant. In my opinion, I think AI works better after you do the thinking. So this is why I usually recommend starting with thinking about your strategy first, then using AI second, and then using a tool like SocialBee third in order to help your process move along faster. This is also why the AI inside a content system works better than any random prompts that you might get from the internet because it has all that context that you've created. So, how do you speed up content creation by using AI? It can help you in every single step of your strategy. You just need to know what to ask it. Ask it to brainstorm ideas, to generate entire posts if you want to, rewrite content, improve content, analyze your top 10 content, rewrite or write scripts for your videos, help you spend less time creating content, but more time creating quality content. So these two prompts that you're seeing on screen right now are there to help you define the right types of content for your audience. So you can see two prompts that can help you maybe get topic ideas or pillars, if you will. But I think topic ideas is more useful in this case than pillars. So that's one way to do it. Take a screenshot. I will move on in three, two, one. Um, okay, so let's talk about these individually. First off, let's see how you can brainstorm content through AI. I have a prompt here that you can also use. Did I hear Anka has context from a pre? Don't put words into my mouth. Um, I'll talk about the AI and social B a little bit later. I'm just talking in general when you're using AI with a strategy. So going back to the prompt that I have here, generate, let's say, Instagram topic ideas for our small business audience interested um, in, let's say, scheduling content more effectively, aligning with our brand values of um, include values here, and help us create maybe a mix of carousels and reels, right? You can use this template so that it can help bring ideas to your content. You can also generate entire social media posts. Here as well, yes, you can do that. You can create a post based on a specific statistic. This is the one that I used as an example. You can see it in the screenshot here. You can also use things like write a caption for a TikTok video. What I would recommend though is that you alter the post a little bit and truly make it your own once it's generated, because that infusion of human touch is what will make your post your own. You can use the AI to rewrite or improve your existing content. So that way you can reshare it and make it better the next time that you do. Here are two prompts that will help you do just that. Create 3 new and different variations of the following social media post. You can write 3 different variations of the post. And by the way, this is something that you can do with the Social Bee AI. It will provide you with a lot of variations. You can also use this to write scripts, right? If you don't know how to create your video, but you know that you need more videos, you're going to you're going to have a lot more structure if you write the script, and you can do that with the AI and then adjust it as you go to make it feel more natural to you and your style of talking, to your style of communicating, basically. One thing I insist on is to make sure that you edit AI generated content, because nowadays everyone uses AI to generate content. So it makes it super easy to find out if a piece of content has been generated by AI or not. You can see it in the overuse of generic phrases, in the specific formatting that especially ChatGPT has nowadays. You can see it in repetitive sentence structures, in the lack of emotional nuance. So that's why I urge you to infuse your personal touch into your posts before they go out. So use ChatGPT, use the AI to help you, but don't leave it as a final product. Don't let it replace your identity, basically. So how do you do that? You can add personal anecdotes. You can add specific details that only you would know. They are maybe case specific. You can vary the lengths of sentences and the word choices that you make to make sure that not everything is magical, as ChatGPT tends to say. And you can infuse humor, you can infuse cultural references that might be very specific to your part of the world. So these are just a few things that you can do to make sure that you adjust it and make it less AI-y. Cool. So we've reached the second post, the second part of practical challenge, which is the second exercise. I want you to use one of the prompts in the slides that I've provided. You will get them in the email and come up with at least 5 content ideas around one of your content themes. So again, if you have one of your content themes as consistency, which was my example, you should have 5 ideas on publishing content consistently. Let me sip some water before we move into my favorite part of this all thing. If you've been to one of my webinars before, you know how much I absolutely adore analytics. They are the base of any new strategy. Everything needs to start from where you're at right now. So I absolutely am a data marketing girly, not just vibes and ribbons. So what I'm trying to say is that the strategy you create doesn't stop when you're posting your content. You need to look at your analytics. You need to help your account grow and make sure that you understand what's working and what's not working in your current strategy so that you can optimize and adjust to make sure that you're reaching those goals that you set in the beginning. And in order to do that, you should check your analytics. Tell me in the comments, how often do you check your analytics? Or actually, do you check your analytics? Because I've seen answers from people who say they don't, that they do every day, that they do every month. How often do you think you should? Okay, let me reopen comments here really quick because I'm curious what you're saying. Every day. Ha, I told you. About once a month, never every other week, only when you send the email. Just did it for the first time today. Once a week, once a month, more than I do, once a month when setting goals. Okay, cool. So these are great to start off with. You should, let me start with that. You should check your analytics regularly if you want to make informed decisions, if you want to explain the use of your time and resources, and if you want to track your progress. Now, I see one of you mentioned in the chat that you're only checking analytics when setting your goal. You should definitely do it more than that, because if you're just setting your goal and then not checking analytics anymore, you will not know if you've reached your goal or not. But we are talking about how often you want to publish or check analytics. So I would say, depending on the time frame that you set for your goal, go for either weekly or monthly, not more frequent, because you will not see patterns on a day-to-day basis. You will not be able to figure out if anything is wrong if you're just looking at a day-to-day basis. And to prove that, I'll go into Social Bee. Let me go into the Social Bee workspace. There we go. You can still see my screen, right? You can still see Social Bee. Yeah, you can. Cool. Okay, so let's go into analytics here. If I'm looking at my post analytics for the last 14 days, I haven't posted much in the last 14 days. So I will not understand why something is working or why something is not working. If I look at the last 3 months, now I have better insights. And especially with reach, if I'm looking at the last 3 months, I can see there's a clear path to reach increase as opposed to the last 14 days, which guess what? I had 4 posts. How am I supposed to understand this? How am I supposed to see the patterns if all I got is 4 posts? So I hope that makes sense. You should create a frequency that works for how often you publish, of course, but I would say somewhere around the weekly or monthly, leaning towards the monthly checks for analytics. So, what should you check? There are 5 types of metrics that are relevant and that I want you to prioritize. But I want to start by telling you that you should track what matters to your goals, not everything. So these are options of a menu, and you can pick the ones that work for your goals, right? You can either log them in a spreadsheet or have them in an app like SocialBee does. That's up to you. But track them, make sure they matter, and then go from there. So let's see what types I recommend tracking. Starting off strong, we have follower growth, audience size. This is the last one on my on my screenshot here, but it's basically one that matters to kind of your overall account health to see if you are growing, if your account is dropping in followers, if it's stagnant for too long, things like that. Um, Second would be, I think, awareness metrics. In this case, we're talking things like reach, like impressions. The third, and yes, we are going to go into a little more detail on these later. I'm just trying to kind of explain them a little bit before we do. The third, as importance, I would say, is the social media referral traffic and maybe website visits if you have a website, of course. If not, this is not relevant to you. But basically, referral traffic from social media can be huge and it can actually help a lot. Then you can look at things like brand health metrics, where you can look at things like your audience sentiment, comments, mentions, things like that. And finally, probably the one that gets overlooked the most is your engagement metrics. And here you're going to look at things like your engagement rate, your likes, your comments, your retweets, your shares, saves, completion rate for videos. Depending on what each platform offers, these might be different from platform to platform, but look at those that matter for you. As I said in the beginning, we're looking at one platform. So with that in mind, make sure that you pick one growth metric and one engagement metric to track with your goal. Everything else that you have is context. You can use it, but it won't be as important to you as that metric that you go for. So let's talk about them individually, starting with the follower growth and the audience size. You would say that this is only relevant if you have the goal of growing your audience. And if you say that, you would be wrong. As I said earlier, your goal doesn't need to be to grow an audience in order to follow or track this metric, but rather it tells you a complete story on how your account is doing. So basically, if your account is stagnant for way too long, or if your account is declining, you definitely need a new strategy, and probably that's why you're here. If you see that your account is thriving, that it has positive growth, you can look at what you're doing in that time frame and do more of that to kind of encourage that growth further. In this category of metrics, we have the follower growth, which is the actual number of new followers that you gain in a specific time frame. Be wary that this can be different from your net follower growth. So they are two metrics. You can gain 50 new followers in a month and still only grow by 30 because 20 other followers have unfollowed you. That is healthy, but just be mindful that they can be different. You should also look at your follower growth rate. This is a percentage that shows how quickly your audience is actually growing. So we're growing by 10% every month, which is insane, right? We're growing by 1% every month, which is not that bad. So it depends on how big your audience is and how much you're growing. Your goal is to make it as big of a percentage as possible in order to truly see a snowball effect, a growth. And then you can also look at things like your audience size, which helps it helps with keeping track of any changes to your follower counts. So as I said, you can gain 50 followers, but it will only take you from 570 to 600 because 20 other followers have unfollowed you. And that is normal. That is something that you should see. You should see people unfollowing you as long as it's not equal or bigger than the number of people that are following you. You should be fine. That's a normal life cycle of a follower. So, what you should be aware of and what you should be wary of is any stagnant accounts or declining growth. That's when you need a new strategy. This type of metric is something that is a leading indicator. So you look at reach expansion. You look at the way the algorithm trusts you by seeing how well your account is doing overall, basically. Um, yeah, I think that's it on follower growth. Let's talk about social media engagement metrics. This is again very relevant. What are these types of metrics? Well, they are shares, they are retweets, they are comments, mentions, either tagged or untagged. They are watch time for videos, they are clicks, they are likes, saves, reactions, depending on what each platform has. You will want to look at those depending on what your purpose is, what your goal is for that platform. And then you will also want to look at the engagement rate. The engagement rate, if you're not aware of it, is basically the sum of all of your interactions divided by the number of followers or by the number of reach that you have total and then multiply it by 100%. As a rule of thumb, if you have low engagement, you will need a new strategy to increase engagement because engagement drives growth. So you cannot grow without having engagement first. If you do nothing, the algorithm does nothing. And this is, I guess, rule number one in social media in 2026. If your audience doesn't engage, if they do nothing, then the algorithm doesn't push your content further, so you will not get anywhere. Awareness metrics. These are going to show you how many people see your content and how much attention your business is getting on social media. So you can use metrics like impressions, which is how many times a post is displayed to someone. On Instagram right now, you can see that as views. You can look at reach, which is the unique number of users who are getting that post. So if I see the same post 5 times, that is 5 impressions, 1 reach. On platforms that are very video forward, you can also look at video views, things like TikTok and YouTube, where video counts are usually counted as impressions. So these metrics, when you look at them on their own, they might not tell you much. They might not tell you the full story. But if you start observing these in relation to other data, the context that I was telling you about, you might notice a few things. So you might notice that you have high reach with low impressions. This scenario indicates that your content is reaching a broad audience, but users are not engaging with it. They are not revisiting the content. This is not bad, but it's not good either. It kind of depends on your goal. If your goal is to expand your audience, then this is great. If your goal is to get that audience to follow you and see more of your content, not so much. You can also have high reach with high impressions. This is the ideal scenario. This will indicate that you have expanded your reach and that people are coming back for more. This is basically the positive outcome that you want. This is suggesting that your content is reaching a large audience and it's also capturing their attention. Then you have one more. You have low reach with low impressions. This one will suggest that your visibility is quite limited, and it usually prompts you to evaluate your content strategy, your posting times, or the use of other platform-specific tools to help you increase reach or impressions in this case. You can't really have a fourth option, which would be low reach, high impressions, because impressions will drive reach to grow as well. So, when you look at the awareness metrics as a whole and you put them together with your engagement rate, you're going to get two possible outcomes: high reach, low engagement rate. This is where people see your content, they don't interact with it. You can tinker with your strategy to gain more engagement if that's the case. Or you can have low reach with low engagement. That means that your content is not getting seen as much. So make sure that you get to the point of having high reach and low engagement and then work on engagement. What else can you do with these? Well, you can identify patterns in the content. So you can look, if I'm going to social B again, you can look at the last 3 months and see where your highest reach is and look at that and basically do more of that. That's something that your audience was very interactive with. See what that is. Do it again. You can look at the impact of things like hashtags on platforms where they are still relevant, or other tools like music on TikTok, or what else? Location on Instagram, things like that, that can maybe help with discoverability. You can also monitor whether awareness is increasing or decreasing or staying stable. All these are clues that will help you understand their impact on your business. So we're moving further into this, talking about social media referral traffic, which is crucial to proving your ROI, your return on investment, and your impact. This basically is the people who are coming from social media visiting your website. So every time you post a link on LinkedIn and someone clicks on that link, goes to your website, that is considered referral traffic. Usually, when that happens, you've captured their interest. So it's a good metric to have to know that you have the right audience, that they are interested. And the way you track this is usually with Google Analytics and something called UTM tracking, which stands for Universal Tracking Metrics. You can see those in Google Analytics, but you can set them up in Social B as well in the categories by editing the category into the URL settings here. So that's traffic. Then we're going into brand health. These metrics will tell you a complete story on whether your audience is happy or not with your brand. We're going to look at audience sentiment and brand mentions. They can tell you a lot on how your audience wants you to use social media. If your social mentions are more about support questions, for instance, your audience wants to use that channel as a channel to get help. So use that to your advantage. Offer the help, make it easy for them to get the help that they ask for. The audience sentiment will tell you how people feel about you, how they feel about your products. If you hear someone raving about Social Bee on social media, it's because they love Social Bee, right? They will not tell you that Social Bee is average on social media. They will either tell you that Social Bee is awesome and it helped my strategy so much, or they will tell you Social Bee did not work for me. Which, good for them, but I think Social Bee is awesome. Cool. So that concludes the majority of the analytics. One final mention here is the one that you see on screen. Don't forget any platform specific analytics. Specifically, if you're looking at YouTube or TikTok, they have metrics that other platforms do not. So look at those and use them to your advantage. Okay, so we've talked about the fact that you need to be aware of your engagement rate, that you can get more reach and that gets more engagement. What exactly is that? How exactly do you do that? I'll start by saying that engagement is not just a result, it's fuel for your account growth. The more you engage, the more you learn, the more the algorithm sees that something and pushes your content further. The better your content becomes, the better it performs, and so on. And it's basically just growth. So when you have high and positive engagement, that is a very good signal that your profiles are healthy, they're thriving. Everybody wants more, right? But how do you get to that point? That's what we're going to look at in the next part. So we'll start with the most simple, low-hanging fruit there is, responding to comments and messages as soon as possible. This is very important that you listen to me. Quick responses signals to your audience that their comments and messages matter, that they are being acknowledged, that they are being taken seriously. It helps with making sure that you're building connection, that you make your brand more relatable. It also helps with addressing any issues, like the support example that I mentioned earlier, so that they don't escalate into something worse. If you don't have a lot of time to do this every single time someone provides a comment on your content, you can use a rule that I like to call the 10-10-10 rule. It takes you around 15 minutes a day. You can comment for 5 minutes or 10 comments. Just comment on an ideal post, an ideal client's post. You can reply to your own comments for another 5 minutes or another 10 comments, or reply to DMs and mentions for another 5 minutes, another 10 mentions or so. If you have them, of course. Sometimes you might not have 10. Keep in mind that one of the best performing content formats right now is actually replying to comments. And you can see that in platforms like TikTok and Instagram, where you are able to take a comment and reply with a video and create another post from that. Use that to your advantage. That is social media gold right now, and you definitely want to do that as much as possible. So if you are getting questions in your comments, hit that video, create that comment into a new post. Of course, there are other ways in which you can also generate engagement, things like running contests or giveaways, which can bring a lot of visibility all at once into your content, hosting polls, or ask for questions in the stories, things like the social media, the Instagram sticker for asking questions on Instagram stories. You can also use the features that each platform has in order to maximize reach. Tag users on platforms where you can tag users, invite collaborators to your account wherever it is relevant. So if you are working with someone, create that collaboration on posts, reply to comments as content the way I said before, use audience led prompts, which are things like reply with the word guide and I'll send you the guide in the DMs. This is usually automated with tools like ManyChat. um, and I would use sparingly, so not too much. So use it here and again to kind of drive a little bit of engagement, but not too much because that can become a little problematic. You can also use things like broadcast channels. I know TikTok has them, Instagram has them. You can use them to communicate with your audience more and make it more engaging for them to be a part of your world, your social media world. Now, I want you to use a resource that we will provide. I'll click on it so that you can see it here. This is a social media audit. We will provide this in the email, so you don't have to do this right now, but this will take you through your platforms and it will help you just understand your metrics and see how well your content does so that you can move this further. If you don't want to do this, or if you have a Social Bee account, you can also just do it directly in Social Bee, going into analytics and going through the different analytics that you might have in Social Bee. So the third exercise is to look at your analytics, basically. That is what I want you to do. We're almost at the point of Q&A. So before we go there, I wanted to leave you with a anti-burnout check-in because I see this way more often than I should. I want you to make sure that you are aware of how much content you are creating and how you can pace yourself to make sure that you are working towards the goals that you set in the beginning, right? So ask yourself, do you enjoy what you're creating? Is this sustainable for at least 30 days? And can you automate or batch create anything to make things easier for you? So these questions, when you answer them, they will help you stay consistent over time. Keep in mind that you shouldn't overcommit, that you need to start with what feels doable and just add on as soon as you feel like you're ready to do that. And basically, remember that burnout usually means that you're relying on motivation instead of structure. So keep structure in mind at all times. It will help you make things a lot easier for you. Once you've reached your goals, the loop starts over again so you can build more structure from there. All right, so we're going to go into the questions now. We still have around half an hour left of this session. If needed, we can stay the entire half an hour and answer questions. If not, class will be dismissed early. But before we finish, I wanted to thank you all for joining us. Hopefully this webinar did provide as much value as I could possibly fit into this short amount of time. And in order to thank you for it, I wanted to help you even further, right? We've built your strategy with all the information that we've provided you with today. If you want to turn that into something that you don't have to rebuild every month, if you just want to make life easier, you can use the codes on screen to work with Social Bee to get a little bit of a discount in Social Bee, either for the first 3 months or for the full year if you're purchasing a yearly plan. And if you don't have a Social Bee account yet, you're not sure what that is, you can open up a free trial by going to the link in there or just to our website, socialbee.com. Now, if you have any other questions at any moment, you can always reach out to me or the team at anka@socialbee.com or hello@socialbee.com. Now let's go into those questions. I'll just keep the discount on screen so that you have it there. Let's see questions. I just want to ask. I keep getting notifications to post on social be on my phone. For some reason, I have opened the notification and it tells me to copy the caption before logging into Instagram. What can I do to bypass this? How can it be fixed so that my posts go out automatically once I set them up on the platforms? For Instagram specifically, and it is good that you mentioned the platform this is happening on. Instagram has three types of content of profiles that you can connect to SocialBee. And I'll go into SocialBee for a second to show you what that means. If I'm trying to connect an Instagram account, it will provide me with three ways of doing so. You can see um, personal account, which is an account that is not set to business or creator. And that one can only publish via mobile reminders. So it might be one of the reasons why you're getting reminders if your Instagram is set as a business, as a personal account. You can check from your Instagram settings if it is and switch it over to a business account. And then you should be able to publish directly if that's the problem. Otherwise, if you already have a business account or creator account, you can see that you have the option to connect them professionally via credentials directly from Instagram or via Facebook, which is the recommended method because that also gives you access to analytics, to engage, to tagging, and other features that are not available otherwise. In that case, if you have it connected as one of these two and it still sends your content through reminders, it might be that something in your content is limited. Whether it's the size of the file, whether it is the length of the video, the width of the photo, something is preventing SocialBee from posting it directly, and so it's going via mobile reminders as a backup. If you don't know what it is, and if my answer did not answer your question, but only raised more questions, you can email me with an example post of a post that went through reminders, and I'll look into it and I'll send it back to you that way, and we can be more specific. You talk about reusing posts, but how do you do that when you are doing posts about a specific event? For example, a weekly show. Well, it's super easy to do that for a weekly show, especially if it's weekly. If it's a recurring event, you're going to talk about the fact that the event is recurring. If you want to give me a little more detailed information on it, I can provide you with more insights on this. Otherwise, what I would do, for instance, on my SocialBee demo webinars, I do those every month, usually on a Tuesday, usually on around the first or second Tuesday of the month. So if I'm planning on long-term promoting those webinars, I'm just gonna say, hey, join my next webinar. I'll see you on a Tuesday. You can see a list of when you can register. There's gonna be a lot of topics that we're gonna discuss. It's making it more general about the event rather than the topic of the event. But yeah, it's very much doable. Do hashtags work on LinkedIn? Yes and no. Hashtags work, but depends for what. Hashtags work on categorizing your post. In today's social media landscape, that's the most important thing. They can help become keywords for the algorithms to share your content. They will not help with reaching more audience. They can help with categorizing your content. That's about it. On Twitter, Premium Basic, which does allow long posting. Other schedulers do recognize this tier. Can you please explain why SocialBee currently doesn't detect or support long posts for Premium Basic? At the last webinar, you said SocialBee does not recognize this. Did I misunderstand, or does SocialBee not recognize it? It's a little more complicated. Pretty much, it is an API limitation. I am not able to tell you about what other platforms recognize, as I'm not familiar with that. For Social Bee, it is a limitation from the API that we have access to. That is all I can say on this. This might be a silly question. There is no such thing as silly questions. But if my business is multilingual, should I have separate accounts for each language, or should I use the same account and alternate between languages? The answer here is whether your audience is multilingual too. Because if your audience is segmented, let's say you have people from the States who speak English generally, right? Um, and they don't speak Italian, but you also have a local area of people who are in Italy that speak Italian. They generally don't speak English that well. Um, so you have two different categories of people, two segments that don't understand each other. If you're posting the same thing in both Italian and English, and it's not in the same post, first of all, you're going to confuse them. Second, you're going to confuse the algorithm. It's not going to know what audience to send it to. So, my suggestion is if your audience is not multilingual, so if you're not maybe language learning school and you want to address it that way, then have separate channels for separate languages. That's what I would do. Our brand is very niche, so our content is very limited. How can we change our strategy for growth on Facebook due to our limited content and also due to Facebook's algorithm not prioritizing company pages? I would need to learn more about what your niche is so that I can provide examples that would work for you because I do know that some niches or industries are not compliant with a lot of Facebook terms of service. So I do need more detail to answer this properly. But in general, I would go for trying to understand what your audience wants from you on Facebook. They might not want to be educated, especially if it's very niche. Or on the contrary, they might want you to do that. You need to find what your audience is there to get and provide that. Next question. When I have a good social media strategy, do I need Google Ads? How do you see it? I see these as two different pieces of a puzzle. Your puzzle is your marketing strategy, right? The overall thing. Social media strategy, or rather organic social, is a piece of the puzzle. And then Google ads or any type of paid ads are a different piece of the puzzle, and they do fit together in a bigger marketing strategy, along with email marketing, along with other tools that you might be able to work with. But while they are adjacent, they are not mandatory to be worked with together. I guess it depends on the rate you want to grow at, the goal, what you want to achieve. If you want to achieve sales, ads are going to be better at that than organic content. Whereas if you want to achieve impressions, ads will help push it forward more faster than organic alone. Hopefully that answers the question. Can we use the discount code for the annual plan next year or will it expire? 2026 just began now and you're already thinking of next year. The code is only valid now, so I wouldn't suggest waiting until next year. If you have plans for next year, for 2027, we can talk about it a little more closer to the date. Usually our discounts don't last that long. I work for an organization with multiple social media accounts, each boasting over a million subscribers. That is impressive. Great job. However, our managers demand excessive content creation and daily posting, sometimes exceeding 6 posts per day. This results in low engagement, and the maximum number of likes per post is only 60,000. I don't see a question in here. What's the question? So far, this is good. If you're asking if 6 posts per day is too much, it depends on the industry. If you're a news outlet or a magazine, it might not be. Otherwise, it might be too much. If you're seeing low engagement because of excessive posting, then what you can do is try to work at engagement tactics. Make sure that you have call to actions that are open-ended questions, if you can't reduce the number of posts, of course. Um, Open-ended questions, giveaways, ask me anythings, using the comments and likes and everything that you get to create more content. Those should work at bringing more engagement in. You mentioned a cover photo on a video. What is that? On platforms like Facebook, like Instagram, like YouTube or TikTok, you can choose one frame of your video to be your cover photo. Basically, what shows when your video is not posting or playing. So if I go into Social Bee's Instagram, I'll do that on here. Instagram.com/socialbhq. There we go. So in here, you can see the play button at the top where you have a reel. Those are covers. So you can see how this one doesn't have a cover because it's just a person while she was talking. That's a preset cover from the frames of the video. Whereas this one, which is still a video, has a set cover because it just has the main idea from that video, I guess, on there. In Social Bee and in other platforms as well, you can, when you're creating your content, let me do that really quick. There we go. Let's say we select Instagram and TikTok. You will need to customize it for each profile, but you can change the custom thumbnail either from the frames of the video or by adding something specific from your computer. So if I go in here and I want to add sunflowers, I can definitely do that. And so that makes it a little easier for the audience to kind of understand what your video is about at a glance. That's kind of what it's about. Okay, next question. I want to post one-time content on a schedule, but not weekly. Example, opening hours for specific days of the year. I could only schedule weekly in Social Bee. How do I do it? You can add specific posting times. So, for instance, if you want to publish something on the first of every month, you have the specific posting times and you can use, let's say, the 1st of February, and then scroll down to the 1st of March, and then go further to the 1st of April, and pick multiple dates that work for you. That is the way this works best right now. In the future, we do have a plan to create a monthly calendar, monthly repeat as well, but I don't have an ETA for that. So right now, this is how you would do it. Is there a video size limit in Social Bee? I had trouble posting my video directly from Social Bee. Yes, there is. It is imposed by the platform. If you're talking about Instagram, it might be the width of the video, but if you're including a video that is too wide or that cannot publish directly, let me see if I have one. I think I have one here. Let's see that one. Yeah, no, this one works. Anyway, so you will see a warning letting you know that that post will go out via mobile reminders instead. If you can't publish the videos and you don't see a warning, reach out to our support team, success@socialbee.com. They'll be able to investigate it further from there. Okay, so I think that is basically it for questions in the Q&A. No, there's one more. I am wondering if Social Bee will ever have an audio music feature for when we want to post carousels to Instagram. That doesn't depend on Social Bee. Unfortunately, that depends on the API, on what they provide. And right now, they do not provide music libraries for Social Bee or other tools like Social Bee, which essentially means that we don't have access to it, neither Social Bee or other tools. So and it's probably due to copyrights and usage rights as well, but it at the moment, no. There's no way for you to do that, and I don't know if there ever will because it depends on them, not Social Bee. Um, okay, next question. I see one more here. If you're trying to reach a new audience that's different from your current audience, does this mean we should post at industry-wide best times versus our own analytics or the recommended times? That depends on your audience. It depends on their behavior. If you are, let's say you are a company selling things to new parents, right? Let's play it very conventional and say that the mom is at home with the new baby and the dad is working 9 to 5, right? Very conventional. Um, in that case, you would go and target, let's say your main audience is the mommies who are staying at home, who might only see Instagram or social media when they are um, resting a little bit at night after they put down the baby or while the baby is sleeping at very hectic hours and things like that. Whereas if you want to shift your focus towards the parent, the other parent, the dad, he might scroll on social media at breakfast, during lunchtime at work, on his commute. So his behavior is going to be different than the mom's behavior. So if you're targeting two different audiences, look at their behavior. When are they most likely to be online? Post at that time, and of course, post content that is interesting to them so that they are enticed to interact and push it further to similar audiences. Can you show the process on making content on Social Bee? AI pictures really recommended, or still have to use tools like Canva? I can show you the process, but yeah, it basically depends on the platform. Let's say we want to work on 3 platforms. I can just type in the text if I want to do it on my own, or use the AI assistant in Social Bee to generate captions or images or customize the caption further. Let's say you want to generate captions. You'll have prompt templates available in Social Bee. I'll pick one from my favorites. This one is the one that I always use. It's a breakfast recipe. It's super easy to work with. Let's say I want to use avocado in it. So this is where you would add the avocado. I can't spell. This is where you would add the specific information. You can choose your tone of voice and the length and how many options you wanted to bring in, and it would actually help with doing just that. And let's say you want to select the ones that work for you, bring them in. Now you have your variations, the ones that I've mentioned in the slideshow. And then from here, if you have the recipe, you can just upload your own video or image. You can work with Giphy, Unsplash for royalty-free content, or Canva if you want to bring it in from Canva. But you also have the option to generate an image. This will generate a prompt that's based on the text that you have. and it will actually generate images for you that are ready to use. Images are also able to get generated in the Copilot, which is SocialBee's AI assistant that helps create a starting point strategy. So it goes through and creates content pillars, a schedule, and content ideas for you to work with. Let's hope this loads fast so that I can actually show you what that does. But in the meantime, I'll check the chat for any other questions. Um, to see if I missed anything. There we go. We have the images. You can see, let's say I want this one. I can just bring it into my post. And now I have my image and my post ready to go. Okay, let's see the questions here. Is there a way to export the scheduler info into a file like Excel? Unfortunately, no. The best way to do that if you want to export it, you mentioned wanting to put it into ChatGPT, is to just go in and screenshot it. That would be the best way. Can you show me a carousel post? A carousel post in Instagram or in SocialBee? If you want to see a carousel post on Instagram, this is what it would look like. It's basically a post with multiple images. In SocialBee, you can just add multiple images to the same post and it will become a carousel. Just like that. So I have two images. Now I can scroll between the two images. And by the way, regarding the question on posting to Instagram, this is what the warning signs will look like if you are not able to post directly for whatever reason. In my case, the images are too tall, so they will not work unless I crop them to the correct aspect ratio for Instagram, which is usually portrait, just like this. And once I fix these, that error goes away. Okay, I created a post directly in Instagram because it was easier to remix and add a bumper. Can I find that in SocialBee? No, unfortunately, you can't because it is not a part of their API. Unfortunately, those are a few restrictions that I would pretty much very much love to have, but can't. So those are things that you will still need to do natively. Will there be a recording sent out? Yes, there will. Um, let's see, what else? Is it just me or it seems more difficult to reach social media than years ago? It is more difficult. There's a lot more people on social media. Social media is evolving. Things are going in different directions than they had in the previous years, especially noticing the different trends pre-pandemic versus post-pandemic. Things are just going in different directions. So yes, it is a little more difficult now. The attention span is also shorter, but it's not impossible. With the right tactics, you can definitely do that. Dun dun dun. Let's see. SocialBee sometimes won't let me customize for each post. Is there something I can do other than reload the page? I'm not sure what that behavior looks like. It shouldn't happen. You should be able to just toggle it on from here. If you're getting an error or there's something more specific, I would suggest reaching out to our success team, success@socialbee.com. Maybe include a video recording of the issue so that we can actually investigate it further and see what's going on. But I would need more details. So email us with details and we can look into it. A bit off topic, but I'm kind of thank you, Anna. I appreciate it. Um, Can you explain variations when posting, please? So if I want to post to Facebook and I want to remove a link when posting the same thing to Instagram, those are not variations. That's a post that's customized for each profile. In that case, in SocialBee, you'll be able to select both platforms add your common elements. Let's say you want to have that link. Then you'll toggle on customize, or if you're in the old post editor, if you haven't switched to the new one yet, you'll have it as a button here at the bottom. And then you'll see how one is highlighted and one is grayed out. The one that's highlighted is the one that you're currently editing. So let's say we want to have a link on Facebook and remove that link completely on Instagram and just add a video instead or an image. Let's do an image. There we go. So now I have two options, one for Instagram, one for Facebook. Okay, I have a couple more questions from the chat. Oh, okay. So I I didn't see that. Um, I think I answered some of these. Can you explain variations was the last one. Will Social Bee ever have a feature to add different categories? Currently, if I upload media, I need to assign it to only one category. I want to upload all my content to different categories. That's a good feature request. I'll forward it to our product team. Who knows, in the future, we might actually have something like that. Can you link your own Canva account to Social Bee? Yes, you can. As a matter of fact, we are currently waiting for approval from Canva on a new and improved integration. This will change as soon as they approve it. But yes, you can connect your own Canva account in here. Um, dun dun dun. I think that is all. Is the app phone working? Yes, it is. There's a new update that was released earlier today. And once you update your app from the App Store, you should be able to work with it with no issues. So I think that is everything. I don't see any more questions. Thank you all for joining. If any questions pop up later, you can always reach out to anka@socialbee.com or hello@socialbee.com. And if you want to give SocialBee a go, if all of these answers convinced you, go ahead and use the code that you're seeing on screen here, and we'll be more than happy to have you as a part of our hive. Awesome. So thank you all for joining today. I'll see you guys next time with more awesome insights and a great time. Have a great rest of your day.